Well, hey everybody, it's the ninth day of November 2025. I'm Jan Erickson, and this is As Above, So Below. Well, I hope you've had a good week. Um, we're doing pretty well here, such as it is. Had a big windstorm, that was fun. Now my husband's out there pruning trees and picking up limbs, and then I think he's going to make some biochars, so that's what we've been doing. Anyhow, let's take a look at the rune for today from the Elder Futhark bag, if one will ever end up in my hand. There we go. We have Laguz. Now, Laguz is the 21st rune of the Elder Futhark. It means flow, and it means flow in spirit, basically, but it can mean, from a lower vibrational sense, just flowing together in harmony, things like that. It can mean emotional balance and purification and cleansing. You can use it or visualize it as a hook to draw back your energy to you, especially if you're empathic. You need to do that. You need to do it daily, sometimes more than once a day, if you're around a lot of people, because you're going to pick up the emotions of everybody and that energetic presence of them. And sometimes it can feel very uncomfortable. And so you want to make sure that the only energy you're dealing with is your own. And so Laguz is a good one to chant softly to yourself as you're visualizing that process happening, the energetic channels you have created or agreed to create with other people, or other people have just attached to you, either way. And you visualize them, and you see them dissolve, sometimes it's called cutting cords. I kind of think that's, and I've said this before, I just think that's sort of harsh. But at the same time, if it's vampiric energy that's coming your way, then you do what you got to do, right? And see it the way you need to see it. And maybe cutting cords is the better way in that case. But I just like to see them dissolve and bring back whatever's mine, and I chant Laguz to make that happen. I just pull everything back to me that's mine. If you need to engage with somebody again, you can always do that. If someone's needing your support or whatever, then because everybody reaches out emotionally through the aura, whether you realize you're doing it or not. That emotional vibration is happening all the time, and so again, Laguz is just something that you can use to do that. It also means intuition. It also means any kind of clairsentience, clair abilities that you might have. And Laguz is just really helpful to control all of that and to manage it, but also flowing in spirit. It's one half of the rune Ewaz, and you're coming together, binding together in mutual end there. And so, anyhow, this could just be something where maybe your intuition is a little bit stronger today. It could mean that you're needing to do some dream work or trance work. It could mean that you're trying to rebalance yourself emotionally. Let's see what the Geomancy runes have to say for the lower vibrational ego side of things. Let's see, what's that one? That's earth, there's water, there's fire, and then this must be air. So we're looking at a missio. And a missio is about loss. Its complement is acquisitio, which is about gain. This would be gain or acquisitio. And then loss, where is a missio? There it is. Its complement looks like this. It's just, so this would be acquisitio and this would be a missio. And so if you're talking about a missio, you can talk about it in terms of loss. Now, paired with its complement, it might take on a financial type of experience, where there's a loss of financial security, maybe, or a loss of income. As people are dealing with that right now. But it can also simply be increase and decrease. Increase with acquisitio, decrease with missio. And so in that regard, say you might have a cold or the flu or something, and you draw a missio. It could mean the decrease of that. You could be getting, in other words, you could be getting better. So you have to be careful when you're looking at emissio and acquisitio, because it's not necessarily an increase or decrease of one thing or another, like in terms of finances. It could be the decrease of friends. Maybe you friends have moved away, and so you don't have as many friends in your pool of friendship there to draw from, or to deal with on an emotional level, to get support from, maybe flowing in that type of an emotional awareness with your friends. And so maybe it could be a decrease there. So you see, it's kind of complex, but yet at the same time it's not. It just depends on how this happens to resonate for you, and how it happens to manifest. And so let's see what the cards have to say, though. It could be a decrease of intuition today. So we're establishing that you are intuitive. Maybe you're empathic, and maybe a decrease in the empathic awareness today. Or maybe emotional balance. There's a decrease in emotional balance, or a loss of emotional balance. So again, if you're empathic, you're going to want to check in and see what that might be, because it might not be coming from you. It might be coming from outside energetic influences that are trying to attach to you. So it could be something like that, where you're kind of feeling like a loss of control, emotional control, but it's not coming from you. If you are, you might think about this. If you're in a big box store and you're walking, say you're down in a grocery store and you're going through the aisles looking for what you need, and you go through an aisle and suddenly you're not feeling very well. And then you maybe go down an aisle 2 rows down, and suddenly you feel fine. Well, it's likely because you've picked up on some emotional energy from somebody that was in that aisle, and it's affecting you, So you want to definitely shield before go in some way, however you do that, either a bubble, or some people like to visualize themselves in a suit of armor. I don't. I just sort of, kind of have this energy that's like, stay away from me. I'm not in the mood for this today. I can't do this today. I just want to get in here and get out. And when they start doing online shopping and you could go pick it up, man, that's the empath's dream, let me tell you. It's like, oh, I don't have to go in there. But anyway, we're talking about, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about emotional balance with Laguz. And then, but again, if you're looking at a decrease, it could be a decrease of that emotional balance. But let's see. We've got a couple cards from the court. Fun times there. One from Swords, the Knight of Swords, and the Knight of Cups. And it's interesting because depending on how you have them, and then we also have the Eight of Pentacles. I'm going to do the numerology here in a second. There won't be any for the court. But you can look here, and they're going in opposite directions. That's how I pulled it. If I'd pulled it the other way here, they could be talking to one another. It's like, I'm going to offer some compassion and support while you're going off to face this or that, and deal with whatever you got to deal with. And but that's not how I drew it. It doesn't mean we won't put it that way, but because you can move your cards around any way you want to, whatever seems to make sense for you. But you have one that's an active principle, taking action with swords. Swords is the air element. Air and fire are both active. So swords and wands would be considered initiating type of energies, whereas cups and earth, and it is water, and pentacles is earth. Those are more passive types of energies. You're more grounded. You're just kind of, you're trying to stay, nice and balanced and reasonable. And whereas, air and fire are like, let's go, and maybe not so much. Right. But let's do the numerology. So Laguz was 21. Where did my calculator go? There it is. So we're looking at 21 for the rune, for Laguz, and then we've got 8. So 29, 9 and 2 is 11. So we have the Master 11 numerology, which is awakening and enlightenment and illumination. So I think we had an 11 last Sunday, but that was because of the card itself. That was because of Isa. Isa's the 11th rune. That was because of Isa. And overall, if we pulled that out of the equation, we had a 4, which was structure and foundation and grounding. So we have one from each suit other than fire. And Laguz is a water element rune, so we don't have it there. But if we're talking a loss of control, are we into retrograde yet for Mercury? Or is that the 11th? Let me see where that is. Oh, where is it? Today is the 9th. Mercury... When did Mercury... Yeah, Mercury's in retrograde. Is it already in retrograde? Oh, let me look down here. Mercury, out of bounds. Where's Mercury? No. I don't. Is it on the 9th? Maybe it is. Oh, yeah, 11:02 a.m. So definitely Mercury's gone into retrograde. I'm looking at my spreadsheet here. It's how I do my posts on the blog. I make up a spreadsheet first. Anyway, so Mercury is in retrograde. If you look at the loss of emotional control with the 2 runes to start us out here, you might be going back to take care of business. Maybe some deception or whatever that's taken place, but you got to be sure about that, especially with Mercury being in retrograde today. With the Knight of Swords, you're looking at swift action. You're looking at integrity, accepting challenges. One of the things that I see in the cards in the air signs, or in the air element cards with swords, is anytime you see clouds that have been broken up, and the sword seems to be doing that. You're looking at, especially if they're dark clouds, you're looking at deception that's being broken up by the Knight of Swords. He's taking swift action to deal with whatever nonsense is going on in his life, and or maybe on behalf of others. And so you're looking at, the sword of truth cutting through deception with the Knight here, taking swift action to do that. He seems to be running against the wind here, or riding his horse against the wind. The wind's blowing the trees this way. He's going this way. And the problem, though, with it being Mercury in retrograde, you have to be careful how you see things. You have to be careful how you talk about things, because you could take swift action on something and be wrong, not have all the facts. And so be sure today to either table something like that until you actually know for sure what you're looking at, instead of and being able to see the bigger picture of all of it before jumping into the fray and taking swift action on something and reacting to something or somebody in a way that may not be accurate. So you want to be really careful there. And the Knight of Cups next, though, we're looking at a very chivalrous young man. You see the winged sun right here on his helmet. Of course, the visor is up, so he's not in battle, and he's not really in battle either, because his helmet his visor is up too. But at the same time, something's happened, and he needs to deal with it. You're just going to have to be really careful how you do that, and you might want to do it with some compassion instead of being accusatory and say you did this or whatever. Then you might want to find a more savvy way of doing that, and a way that expresses some compassion and support and some understanding for the people or person that you're dealing with, or the situation you're dealing with. The nice part about this particular knight, he's passionate. He's a visionary. He when he's there, he's holding his cup out in offering. It's almost like, I've arrived to help. I'm here to help you. So even though these seem opposite, and in a sense they are, sure, there's something you need to deal with, but you need to do it in a way that's going to express compassion and understanding for the situation. Now, sometimes people may deceive you because they don't know any better. They think they're on the right track and they're going to do what they're going to do, but in fact, and they end up deceiving others in the process. So if there's an underlying truth to the situation, you want to try to find that before you ride into the situation, quickly and I'm going to cut through deception here and I need the truth and all of that. You want to be careful how you approach the situation. So in a sense, these two guys are operating with different mindsets, and especially given the fact that it's Mercury retrograde beginning today at 11 something, whatever, 11:32 or whatever it was I said. I don't remember. Let me just look here. Now I have to look so that I know I'm not telling you something that isn't true. Let's see, 11:02 a.m. Pacific time. That's when it started, and it's been bubbling up for the last week in the pre-shadow period, and then after the 3 weeks there'll be another week of where it calms itself down. So just be aware, it's really more like 5 weeks, but the actual retrograde is 3. So anyhow, and then I think Jupiter also goes retrograde this week. Only that goes on, when does that go? That is on Tuesday the 11th. Jupiter goes retrograde as well. So we have 2 additional planets in retrograde this week. And with that one, you're going to just want to be really reflective about what your values are, what your beliefs are, and how all that impacts the decisions that you make. Anytime something goes into retrograde, it's all about reflection and just kind of taking another look. And with Mercury, it's about communication. So don't sign contracts unless you absolutely have no choice. Be sure you know exactly what it is. Read the fine print, in other words, so that you know what you're getting into, so you don't suddenly find out later, oh geez, I shouldn't have done that. Making agreements, having conversations that are difficult. You want to be very, very careful. Again, same thing here. Exercise some compassion and love and understanding. Try to get to the heart of things, with the water element here in cups, trying to understand, okay, what's really going on here before I start bringing out the sword and saying, okay, we're going to cut through the deception here. I can't have this. We have to understand what the truth of the matter is. And sometimes, again, it's born from confusion. They think they're on the right path. They think they're doing the right thing, but they don't have the other people. They don't have the understanding of what's really going on. So, and then when they figure it out, in the conversation where they're, oh geez, I shouldn't have done that. I should have investigated more. So this is all on me, so it becomes a very different conversation at that point. Right. So just be really careful, to do that. And then when you with the 8 of Pentacles here, 8 is about leadership. It's about strength, inner strength and external strength. It's about material recognition and approval. Here, it's also with Pentacles, paired with Pentacles, you're talking about diligence and care. And again, that's the theme between the Knight of Swords and the Knight of Cups, and possibly the loss of emotional balance. Maybe the loss of emotional balance hits everybody. In other words, you think you're on the track when you're running in there to try to figure out what the real truth is. The other people may think they are too. And somewhere along the line, you figure out what the real truth is. You achieve that shared understanding, and you work diligently to do it. You pay attention to details. You exercise the leadership within and the inner strength within to stay focused on the truth of the matter. Normally with this, you're working diligently on your craft. You're kind of out away from everybody. If this is the town, or this is likely the town or part of the town right back here, and you see like a path going up to that, or maybe a river coming through it, because there's kind of an archway there, so maybe a river or a creek is going underneath that. In fact, it could be a tower associated with a bridge. And so in a sense, this is bridging the divide, if you will, in terms of your materials, by working diligently and having a good foundation and being practical and pragmatic about what you're doing. And you build your wealth, you build your security. Well, if you want to talk about this in terms of emotional security, and who knows, maybe there is a wealth aspect to this as well, especially if you think maybe somebody did something that's going to impact that for you. Again, before you just jump into the fray, especially now with Mercury in its retrograde, you want to be really careful to make that jumping into the fray basically an expression of compassion and understanding. I want to understand what happened here. I feel like I don't have all the facts. I feel like you told me one thing and it's actually another. And that person could be horrified by that, especially when they realize that's what they did. And that's what I'm saying. The decrease in emotional stability or emotional grounding, if you will, with both Laguz and Amicio. It could just simply be that there's been a misunderstanding. And that's why with Mercury retrograde, you have to be so careful about what that understanding, that there's a meeting of the minds. So if you're coming together with somebody this week or in a group this week where you're trying to figure out what the facts of a situation are before you jump to conclusions and think that there's been some intentional deception on your part. True, maybe something wasn't clear, but maybe people didn't realize that at the time. And so just be cautious when you do it. And make sure that you look at the details and you work diligently to find the truth and to help everybody else in terms of the 8 here, the leadership of it, to help them understand the truth. And then with the master number 11, you have the awakening and the enlightenment and the illumination and the clarity, the higher clarity of what all that is. And that should be the focus, the focus should not be, at least initially, that someone's done something bad to you, because maybe it's just literally a misunderstanding or a miscommunication that's happened. So you don't want to jump into it like the knight would, trying to avenge, all of this and bring truth to power, speak truth to power and cut through the deception of everything. Although that might be what ends up happening, if that's in fact the truth of the matter, and that does need to happen, at least if you can soften it a little bit in terms of your expectations and expressing those to people. I think the Knight of Cups is suggesting that. Be the one that's there to offer the support and the compassion and understanding while trying to get at the truth of things, working diligently, paying attention to details, and if you are the leader, the louder voice in the room, the voice of reason in the room, then that would be a very Pentacles thing to do. You be the voice of reason and grounding. Then just make sure, that you're doing this in as respectful a way as possible, with an eye toward everybody understanding what the real truth is. And then it should, you'll weed out what's not supposed to be there. And if you do find that somebody has intentionally deceived you, then you need to get back on track. This reminds me of him getting back on track with his work and working diligently to create the material and financial success that he needs to have, and the security that he's looking for. And in this case, it may also include emotional security, that you have the ability to trust the people that you're involved with. If it's somebody new that you're dealing with, it just could simply be that y'all have to get on the same page about something, and maybe everyone thought they were, but in fact now it seems like it's not, and it's significant enough that you need to do something. It's just how you do it matters. So, make sense? So I don't think we need any other cards. I think we're good. See how that resonates for over the week. And again, if you find yourself in that position, remember about Mercury being in retrograde. Gotta watch your mouth and make sure that you don't assume something that's not true. And if it's a miscommunication, that's okay. You can fix it. So, all right. Wonderful. Check out the blog over at Stepping Aside. The web address there is imsteppingaside.com. If you forget, click on the little more word there below the video. It'll open up a box. It'll be right there at the top. And check out the forecast. It's out. The correspondences for Work and Magic are out, if you're of the magically inclined persuasion. And and then on Monday, early in the, like 3 a.m., I think I have it scheduled for, the Monday through Friday As Above, So Below readings, it's all one post, are going to be right there. Well, I've already scheduled it. Or have I? No, I have. Oh, no, I did. I already scheduled. I'm working for the following week now, so no, I haven't done that. But I did schedule the one for this week, so that will be up tomorrow. And come back again on Sunday, next Sunday, for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.